Hello, my name is Dr. Sidney Freeman Jr., and this is Communiversity. This is an initiative to engage Black Adventist young people to show them the skills that they need to succeed in the future. This program was inspired by Ronnie Vanderhorst, and he wanted to ensure that young people were able to thrive and not just survive, and have the schools that have the tools that they needed in the future. So we're excited that you once again are here with us on this program. And this one other thing that I wanted to mention is that this program has been sponsored in partnership with the North Pacific Union of Seventh-day Adventists, and we are so thankful for their seed grant to allow us to have this. Well, I have one of my good friends, Pastor Claudia Allen, with us today. I wanted to engage her in a dialogue about the skills and the things that you need to know by the age of 30. We all know that our target audience for this programming is between the ages of 18 and 24. And we want to equip you with the knowledge that you need to have to be successful across the board. And so one of the great things about Pastor Allen is that not only is she a pastor, but she is someone that has been an educator. She's someone that has been in multiple disciplines, engaged multiple disciplines. And so I wanted to bring someone to speak on this topic that had a wide array of backgrounds in different areas, and so glad to have her on this program. Thank you so much, Claudia, for being with us.
Listen, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Freeman. This is such a pleasure. Like as you were talking, I was like, absolutely, just the queen of pivots. That's one thing I feel like, I've been in so many different industries in my very short life and time. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So with that, I wanted to just jump in on some just general skills that you may think that young adults should have. So could you talk about maybe 3 essential skills or tools that young adults should have after leaving their parents' home?
Man, okay. I would say first one is the ability to have a conversation. I think that the art of conversation is lost. And so whether you're talking about dating, whether you're talking about interacting with a mentor, interacting with peers in the workplace, whether you are interacting with persons who could hire you, one of the greatest skills you can have is being a great conversationalist. What do I mean by that? Some of the best conversationalists are people who know how to ask really good questions. And so, I would say first skill is be someone who can have a conversation, bring up topics, bring up ideas, initiate and ask questions. Asking good questions is a skill that actually can be learned, right? There are books that you can read on how to formulate really good questions that cause people to immediately assume that you are either important or that you are very successful. And I have seen a lot of success throughout my career simply because every single room I walk into, I make sure to ask questions. And especially ask questions in a way that causes people to say, who is that? I need to meet this individual at the end of the day. The next skill that I think is just so important for young people to have in this day and age is the ability to fast. I really think that fasting was something that I never tried until I was like 27, I think. And the first time I fasted from something, I felt like I was in withdrawal.
Yeah.
And so it was a very like shocking, very altering state to be in, because I was like, I'm thinking I'm just willy-nilly going into this fast, like, oh yeah, I got this. Sure. I'm not gonna eat,
Mhm.
not gonna do this, not gonna. And it was extremely difficult. And it really
Yeah.
let me know that I had attached myself in really unhealthy ways to a variety of things. And so if you
Wow.
are 18 to 25, I feel like now is a great time to really begin implementing fasting on a consistent basis in your life. Fasting, from food, fasting from social media, fasting from television, fasting from a variety of things. And it doesn't necessarily need to be attached to, oh, I'm doing this Daniel fast, I'm going to read these specific Bible verses. Like, I think that fasting is a spiritual practice, that in the
Yes.
same way that we have the habit of daily Bible reading, having the habit of exercise, I think it's important that we also have the habit of fasting, to ensure that the body is being cleansed, the mind is being cleansed, and the soul has an opportunity to ensure that it's not unhealthfully attached to the wrong stuff.
That's
Um,
powerful.
and I'd say another skill that would really help a young person before 30. I'm thinking of Claudia pre-30. Um, I would say reading.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't read now.
Yeah.
And I really I mean, I was an English teacher, so I do feel like I have a bias, but I do feel like we got to encourage people to do long form reading again. That is the way to you know just generate the imagination. It forces you to wrestle when you're reading nonfiction. It forces you to wrestle with a lot of uh, ideas that you maybe disagree with, or that you do agree with, that you have to make sense of. So I think reading is like an intellectual process. It's an intellectual strengthening, strength training. If you really understand the importance of lifting weights in the gym, and how
Mhm.
important that is for bones, for muscles, for heart, then the reading is strength training for the mind. It's critical. Those are my top three.
So, that's. I think the fasting one was one that really stuck out to me. And so you're saying that you can fast from multiple different things. It's
Yeah.
not just necessarily food, even though food is one, but it
Yeah.
can be social media and other things, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I feel like I have found in my life moments I have caught myself like, man, like I'm really attached to this phone. Like I
Yeah.
like I can't. I mean, addicted. Like I'm
Yeah.
checking, scrolling, killing notifications like every 2 seconds. And like even recently it just hit me, and I was like, "Okay, Claudia, we need a minute. We got to figure out how to detox." Same way it's like I love Chick-fil-A. Everybody that knows me knows I love Chick-fil-A. Like, there's no way around it. Right. And so like there are times where I'm like, okay, Claudia, you know what, like, you got to kill this thing. Just, you can't eat this for a month, 2 months, something like that, just to
Wow.
ensure
Yeah.
that um it's not an addiction. You know what I mean? I think that
Mm,
there's so much right now that is intentionally built within our society for the purpose of making you addicted. Like, it's
yeah.
created with that at the core. So many people financially benefit off of you being addicted to something.
Yeah.
So whether you're addicted to gaming, whether you're addicted to food, whether you're addicted to social media, whether you're addicted to work, whether you're whatever, gambling, whatever your particular addiction is, the world is operating off of you remaining addicted. And if you
Yeah.
do not have a habit of fasting, then the body, the mind, the soul never experiences that detox, that jolting of a recorrection. Because that's really what fasting does, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's a hard reset. Like, oh yeah, I need to detach, and it allows you to, retrain the mind, build new neural synapses so that you are living a more balanced level lifestyle. And so I think that it's the best counter to all of the chemicals and just the things that people are intentionally putting in our food, our technology, in every aspect of our being, in an effort to keep you chained, keep you bound in some capacity. And, listen, this is about the liberation movement. If we're really going to
Yeah.
be free,
You're right.
and I mean holistic freedom, I feel
Mhm.
like fasting is a critical skill for that.
Wow. As I heard you speaking, what just kept coming up in my mind is clarity, clarity,
Yeah.
clarity. And with that, I think just from observation of the development of your career,
Mhm.
um, you are multi-skilled,
Mhm.
but there seems to be clarity around your purpose. Could you talk
Mm.
about how one discovers their God-given purpose?
Yeah. Um, so I was extremely pro-Black as a kid. I went to a very white Adventist school. I grew up in rural Southwest Michigan. And so the elementary and high schools that I went to, there were no Black books to read.
Mhm.
There was no, celebration of Black History Month. And I distinctly remember I have, old principals, old teachers, even in elementary school, that can attest to this, that, I was in all of third, fourth grade, seven,
Oh,
eight, coming to school like, I know we're not doing Black history for a day.
we're cut from the same cloth then.
You said all we get is this 45-minute Friday assembly. That's that's all we're doing for Black History Month. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And grew up, got to high school, and really did the same thing. And it was
Mhm.
in my I was in an English class. My white English teacher came to me and literally said, I really think that you should be in my American Lit class this coming spring because we're going to be focusing on African American literature. And I think that you would love it. I said, bet, absolutely. I'm
Mm.
in there like swimwear. And I got in there, and that was the first time that I read Langston Hughes. Well, it was Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
the poem that's kind of attached to is Langston Hughes' poem Harlem. And
Mhm.
like from that moment on, it was almost like a light bulb, Sydney. I
Wow.
felt like this is what I'm like put on the earth to do. Because even at 16, the thought that came to my mind was, I wonder if there are other people who hate English class because they can't resonate with the stories and characters that we have to read. And
Right.
I was
Yeah.
like, man, like I don't get Pip and Miss Havisham, and Charles Dickens' Great
Right.
Expectations, right? Like I don't
Mhm.
really resonate with the writings of Mark Twain. Like I can't stand reading any of this stuff. But the moment that I started reading Black literature, I like to say I fell in love with it would be a gross understatement. I mean, I
Wow.
became obsessed with the artistry of the language, and was just trying to find these books, every chance I could get. And it was in that moment that I said, okay, bet. 16, I am going to be an African American lit teacher. I'm gonna be just like Miss
Okay.
Wright in my high
Wow.
school. I'm gonna teach other kids about Black lit, and it's gonna be amazing. I went home,
Mhm.
told my family that. My family was like, "You're not gonna make no money doing that. Absolutely not." Do you have anything to attach to this? Like, what else? Like, and so my mom was like, if you're going to do this, you have to get a PhD. And
Mhm.
so from the time I was 16, I said, okay, the goal is to be PhD by 30.
Mhm.
And every single thing I did was with that goal of being an African American lit scholar, in mind. And so every college course, everything I did, right? And I think it was a phenomenal ride. It was a amazing journey. When I got to my master's program at Georgetown, I got introduced to literature that I would have never even been able to read at my Adventist institution because of some of the ideas that we hold about literature and what
Right.
you should read or shouldn't read. And it was at Georgetown that I also came in contact with Black theology.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about this at all. And
Wow.
so, what am I, 22 years on the earth? I had no idea that there were, like African American theologians like Kane Hopefelder and, James Cone, all these individuals who were, with great density and intellectual rigor, attaching the unique African American experience to the life of Christ in particular. And just wrecking the every exegesis of scripture you can imagine and putting it through this kind of Black lens. And that, acquisition of that knowledge immediately put me on another trajectory, because now it's like, okay, now I see it's not that I love Black literature. I love how God is described and engaged with in Black literature. So now it's like, okay, so now we've got more information. Then we go into the doctoral program, and now I'm studying with one of my mentors who specializes in like communist theory and Marxism and its presence in African American literature. And so now I'm actually seeing the socio-political implications of African American literature. And now I'm seeing the correlation between theology and Black social politics. And now those things are, hand in hand for me. And so now I'm like, wow, like this is amazing. So that's even more clarity, right? So to your point of like, Claudia, like, where's all this clarity coming from? I would say the clarity came from one, always being in motion. I don't stop. You got to be in motion. So we're always walking towards something. Even if we don't end up where we're walking towards, we're learning what we're supposed to learn along the way. And then we get the indication of, okay, bet I got this. Now I need to go in this direction.
Right.
And what ended up happening when I was in my doctoral program was I really got annoyed with the kind of scholarship that was being done. And I really felt like it had absolutely no impact on the real lives of Black people. And I felt like, man, the literary academy is really irrelevant. This is really interesting, we can have some of the dopest philosophical, esoteric, theoretical conversations of life. We can all sit together and sound deep. And, at some point you get to, and you know this very well, Sydney, at some point, academics get into a room and it becomes a performance of who's the deepest.
Right. Yes.
And so now we're trying to, out intellectualize the other and impress each other with our words and our insights. And I just was not interested in that at all. And I was particularly moved in 2015 by the murder of Michael Brown.
Okay.
And when Michael Brown was shot, I was living out here in DC, and I was very struck by the fact that he was left out there for over 4 hours uncovered.
Yeah.
And it really sunk into my mind, like, we're genuinely seen as roadkill.
Yeah.
Like, for you to be an officer You're a public servant. You are a government employee. You shot a human being, but you left that human being there uncovered to die. There was no call of an ambulance, no call for anyone to come. You just left him laying there next to an apartment complex. And that really rattled me. And it really caused me to just wonder, what does the Black Academy and what does the Black church have to say about this? And the Black church in particular. And I left a protest in Malcolm X Park, and I was literally asking God, I said, I need you to show me what God has to say about this. Like, I need the Gospels to speak to this directly. If the Gospels have nothing to say about this, then I'm not sure I want anything to do with it.
Wow.
And that really kind of sent me on a continued journey that with Black theologians and womanist theologians, that caused me to understand that the God that I had been given doesn't care about police brutality, but the God of creation does. And so as I'm continuing to study, that's another kind of data point, as a friend of mine says, that really kind of stood out to me, where I'm continuing to teach, I'm continuing in my doctoral program, but in the back of my mind, I am really steeped in going to town halls, community meetings. I'm going to a lot of policy, reading a lot up on policy and legislation, really interested in like how policies are made on a day-to-day basis. Like, who are those players? Like, who are those people? How do you get into those rooms? Like, who determines that? Like, I think my Adventism and being from a very small town, I was not really informed civically about like how to do anything or get engaged in anything. And so I didn't really know where to look, but I can find it. You know what I mean? The researcher in me can find it, and then you just start going to these things. And that really kind of set me on a journey where I was like, okay, you know what? I really don't want to teach African American literature. I think my draw to African American literature is because of a deep draw to care for, celebrate, elevate African American people.
Wow.
And so now it's like, let's not be in the ivory tower just with the books themselves. Let's be in the street with the people who may write the books of today. And so that caused me to leave my doctoral program. And I ended up working for county government and worked as their outreach and communications manager, but specifically for an Office of Human Rights and Equity. And so spent almost 3 years with the responsibility of not just increasing the office's visibility, but providing trainings on anti-discrimination, on race, cultural competence. That's when all the doctoral training came in handy, because we were, I was just teaching people like these kinds of like social cultural theories, like, introducing them to Asian American literature and Black American literature, and using the literature as an entry point for community conversation. And that program actually won an award because people were like able to
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was able to bring people together in a room, and some of the most conservative white people could learn about privilege and whiteness and the systematic use of oppression, and you could teach these things by using the book as the entry point. And then when you come out of the book, and then I facilitate you in a conversation of, well, like, now let's look about how this looks in our particular county, in our particular state. Now they're doing the exact same process, but they're looking at it in their own communities that they live in. And they're like, mind blown. Claudia, I didn't see this before. I didn't know this. And, decision makers that are like, man, okay, I didn't realize that, this particular bill or allocating these funds in this way was going to have XYZ impact. Like, that was my life. And, I felt like I had found my life's work. And, partnering that with the opportunity to pastor was like one of the greatest privileges of my life. But to the next skill for the young people, I also found that I was overworking would be a gross understatement. So I was working every day from 8:30 in the morning to at least 9-10 o'clock at night outside.
Wow.
Not remote.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
outside my house at events,
Yeah.
in the office, trying to finish things related to discrimination cases, because we also did investigations and things like that. So I would do all that all week. I would go and do Bible study, young adult Bible study at one of my elders' house, with about some folk between the ages of, I'd say, 21 to 35, and would be there until midnight. Then would go to church on Sabbath. And there were times where I'm either driving to go preach out of town, or I'm not doing Bible study on Friday, but I'm getting off work at 5, catching a flight, flying to wherever, preaching, getting back on the flight, coming back, doing a county event on Sunday, going, maybe go to sleep a little bit, wake up, I'm right back inside the office on Monday morning. I had no rest whatsoever for like every single weekend for almost 3 years. And what I ended up experiencing was I felt my body shutting down.
Yeah.
And, the greatest advice I could give you is, your body will tell you when it has had enough and when it can no longer go. And I was still trying to force myself to go. And my mom, who is a nurse, she called me one day and she was like, Claudia, I'm telling you, I'm seeing all this research. I'm doing all these, because she's the dean of nursing at a university. So she's on the research side. And so she's like, I'm seeing all this stuff. More and more people in their 30s are having strokes. More and more young people in their 30s are having heart attacks. You're not eating, you're not exercising, you don't sleep, you're always working. Like, you are fin to have one of these things. And, I felt like, you're being dramatic, chill out. I'm gonna keep doing my thing, like, relax. But once I actually started feeling it, I started, the ways I started feeling it to help some young people, if you ever, find yourself like this, one of the ways I started feeling my body shut down was my arms would randomly go numb. Could not, like, just the left arm, just dead. My arm would be in excruciating, or there would be other days where my left arm would be in excruciating pain. Like, I couldn't move it. I couldn't lift it. Like, it's just frozen. I would find myself with extreme anxiety. Like, I couldn't shut my brain off. It felt like I was in a constant state of Energizer bunny. And so I felt like I always had a very high heart rate. I was like, always, it took a lot for me to rest, to actually bring the body down. And so all of that really began to communicate to me, Claudia, you're not well. Yeah. And that's when I said, okay, God, this was not so much a clarity moment, it was a request. And it was, God, you have taken me on this incredible journey. And I feel like you've called me to community work and human rights work and justice work. But I also feel like you've called me to pastoral ministry and to preaching. And how do I do both of these things at the same time? and not kill myself.
Right.
And Lord, I need you to open a door for me to have a career that
Mm-hmm.
permits me to be able to afford to live in Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like we can't, we can't go back to the student life. That was a
Mm-hmm.
struggle bus, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I need you to get me a career that I can afford to live. But then I also need this career to be something that supports quality of life. And that is when the Lord opened the door for the role that I'm currently in. And I'm the Director of Advancement for Maryland Humanities, which is the nonprofit state affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities. And so I lead our advocacy efforts. That's like our relationships with our elected officials at the local, state, and local, county, state, federal. Um, and then I also lead our communications efforts, all
Okay.
communications for the organization. And I also lead all of our development efforts. So there's a lot on my plate, but I think what's phenomenal about this organization is it is like 95% remote, Sydney.
Oh, wow.
I go into the office maybe once a month. Uh, once,
Wow.
once or twice a month, I go into office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And so that, along with the fact that the CEO really fundamentally believes that rest is central to our work. And
Mm-hmm.
this person is not a believer at all.
Okay.
And so they're very adamant about that, but they're also very adamant about you need to take your PTO, you need to clock out, no overworking. I work from 9 to 4. Like
Okay.
that's,
So,
my previous life, I couldn't even imagine just working 9 to 4, because there were days I was physically in a county office building at 11:30 at night. And so I think that, God, another way that God provides clarity about your kind of career and your life's work and your life's purpose is, one thing is consistent, even though I have definitely changed jobs and had the opportunity to be in a variety of places. It's all very similar work, for one.
mhm.
So I do tend to stay in one particular area. Um, and I think that that's because I identified what makes my heart burn.
Yeah.
What is the thing that I feel like God has really uniquely fashioned me to address? And one of the ways I would encourage young people that are watching this, the way that I came to that was literally in my 20s, constantly journaling.
Yeah.
I am in I've got, I think you can actually see it here, right here. Those are
Mhm.
journals up here at this top shelf right here. I have 12 years worth of journaling.
Oh, wow.
And when I need to, I go back.
Mm.
And I go back and I read and I'm like, oh, yes, you know what? That is what I'm passionate about. I forgot, because the reality of life is you will keep going on a trajectory and you will not fully remember.
Yeah.
You'll get caught up with other people's visions for your life.
Yes.
When you are extremely skilled and gifted, everybody and their mama has ideas about what they think you should be doing with your time, and
Mhm.
whether or not you are spending your time efficiently or in the most productive way, and this would be better for you, Claudia, and why don't you do,
Yeah.
and I want to be clear, people will have strong feelings about this. They will be
Strong feelings.
they will be angry, they will be
Yes.
sad, they will be and all of those emotions can be extremely persuasive, particularly when they come from individuals that you are in close relationship with, whether they
Mhm.
be mentors, people you look up to, people you're in community with. And so I know for me, like, I absolutely found myself getting swept away with other people's dreams and visions for me, that I forgot my own, like the dreams and visions I had for myself. And so journaling is like a really great way to keep you grounded and keep the clarity there, because you will get distracted. It will get foggy. Other people's
Mhm.
opinions will infiltrate. Um, and you know, no matter how you navigate, you always end up back at the heart's core. God has
Yeah.
a way of truly navigating my life, and that's why I can say that this without a shadow of a doubt, this will happen for any young person watching this, because no matter what I have tried to do, the totality of where I am, it always comes back to the same thing, you know. And from a kid, when I got my first Bible when I was 10. Well, that wasn't my
Hmm.
first. That's not fair. My first real Bible. My grandfather gave me
Mhm.
a, you know, engraved,
R-
leather bound
Right.
KJV, you know, big person's
Yes.
Bible, right?
Hmm.
And I took that Bible and I would come into our computer room, Sydney, and
Hmm.
I would just open the Bible and I would just type in Microsoft Word the Bible. I'm not writing no sermons. I'm not writing any interpretation. We just transcribing the Bible. I don't know why I was doing this. Like,
Oh.
as I look back at this as an adult, I'm like, girl, you didn't have nothing else you wanted to do with your time. But like, I loved the Bible.
Wow.
And if I can look back at every moment in my life, I have always loved the Bible. I have always loved theology. I've always loved Black culture. I've always loved Black literature. I've always loved Black people. And I think
Mhm.
that God has a way of, in every single role and every single opportunity, I'm still really attached to and doing what I really, really love. And that has been, you know, that craft has been mastered and honed and explored and researched, and more information and knowledge has come because of different degrees and certifications and things that I have gained over the years. But it's all in the same family, and I can attest to that just because of the goodness of God and His leading. And I truly cherish all these journals that I have that have really documented my own story, so that I can remind myself what I love when other people try to force me into a direction that they would prefer that I go in.
So with that, what is the best way in which to kind of engage with you if somebody wanted to reach out to you or
Mhm.
see some of the content that you're doing?
Absolutely. Follow me on Instagram, on all my platforms. It's officially CMA, officially CMA. That's where you can follow me. You can feel free to send a DM. People DM me questions and stuff all the time, and I do my best to respond wholeheartedly. You might get a voice note. It might be 5 minutes. You might get 2, 3 voice notes. As you can tell, I'm a little long-winded, so don't be mad at me. But you know, I do tend to be a bit long-winded with my answers. So, but if you reach out, I am more than happy to respond. So
Well, thank you again so much for what you've been able to share. I think I picked up a book. I picked up a book here, How to Be a
yeah,
Grown Up, the 14 essential skills you
I
didn't know you
love
needed
that. I've
until
got it up on my Amazon. I'm checking this out for real.
Rafi Greenberg. This is a great book, but I think you filled in some pieces that weren't even in the textbook. So
Mercy.
thank you so much. And want to encourage our audience to continue to watch our content.
Absolutely.
We are trying to ensure that we provide information that will empower you and inspire you as you grow as an adult. Blessings to you. Until next time. So just a quick pivot related to in your last statement.